Well, hello there, you beautiful, beautiful, amazing, wonderful people. It's Thursday, baby. It's Thursday. Thursday. You're looking absolutely amazing, I must add. And I hope I'm not the only person who tells you today, because you deserve to be told by more than just little old me. But anyway, let's get straight into the meat and potatoes. As there seems to be, and this is video 1 of 2, by the way, there seems to be a bit of drama again around the old Idaho 4 and true crime community. And what is the trigger? What is the trigger of this drama? It is the person who has came out and claimed to be Bryan Kohberger, his friend. It's a difficult one. It's not really about saying I am Bryan Kohberger's friend. I am Bryan Kohberger's friend. He's someone who has come out in kind of support of Bryan Kohberger, as he claims that he's got some kind of background knowledge on who Bryan Kohberger is as a person. And what we must consider here is that as much as we want to turn around and say we don't know 100% whether this guy is being authentic, whether he is indeed who he says he is, I always think that, look, we've got Bryan Kohberger who's being accused of doing one of the most heinous crimes that we've spoken about. And I only say one of because, look, I would say that really young children, like the Vallow Daybell sort of situation, is an even more heinous crime. This is heinous, but there's degrees of it, you know. And people are going to hate on me for that because they're going to just say murder's murder. If you take someone's life, that's all the same, which I kind of beg to differ. But look, what I will say is, look, this has stemmed on even further, and we'll touch on the fat comments and stuff like that as well. We'll speak about that in a bit because I've got some comments about that. But this is what we're talking about. We're looking at Birdie. Birdie is a channel. He covers Idaho 4. He seems quite a cool guy. Some people have reached out about me going on Birdie's channel. The realism is I physically can't. The time difference and when he goes live and when I can go live, because I've just got so much going on in the background as well. I just can't. I am live over on Tommy's channel on Sunday evening, and I've still got to do the live with JB Gunner as well. They've kind of collided, and I had to move them. But this is Birdie, and he did a video where they interviewed, if you like, Bryan's friend, affectionately known as Will on the platform. I'm confused as fuck. I am, because I know that there's he seems to suggest his name's Will. I've then got some other guy, and if this is you, Chris Steed, then reach out to me, because I thought that you two were the same fucking person reaching out to me about motorbike stuff. Oh, I don't know. I speak to so many people, I don't know who's who half the time. But that's by the by. But yeah, he did this video where Bryan's friend, he sort of, the interview kind of went how you see most interviews go, and that is that questions are asked and answers are kind of skirted around. And I think to myself, we're a bit arrogant sometimes, and that is that we crave information. We crave finality in questions, and when we don't get them, we become frustrated about it. But in reality, what do we want from certain people? You know, it's almost like we expect them to give us every single thing that we want, while simultaneously not respecting their right to not be, they don't have to tell us everything. They tell us what they want to tell us. They tell us what they feel they are comfortable with telling us. But the link between this, we'll call him Will, because I think that's his name. The different, with Will. Now, is Will truly someone who knew Bryan Kohberger? I think that if we was to write that off and say that's bullshit, I think that would be wrong. Could he be someone who's just come on the platform to build a channel by saying that he knows Bryan Kohberger? He could be. we've seen some fucking lunacy over the years in terms of what people are willing to do on their channels to garner some form of recognition. Joseph Morris, and do you know what I mean? We've seen the lunacy. So is it beyond the realms of possibility that he did? It's not, But do I think that this person really knew Bryan Kohberger? I absolutely do believe that he has interacted with Bryan Kohberger, which then leads you down the route of, well, how did they? And there seems to be a fork in the road at the moment with respect of what Will had said in terms of his interactions and how those interactions come apart or come about. And it is that it seems that there's either an NA or AA element to it, more than likely NA, where they went to meetings. Because Will kind of says that these scenarios where he meets Bryan are almost like they're forced. They're not a choice. They're something that they have to do. Now, the other side of that is that it's the opposite end of that spectrum, and it's not so much the getting over it, but it's getting the balls deep into it and getting other people balls deep into it. That there could have been a collision of individuals there, but I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that they came together when they were actually doing things. Just listening to what he says, it seems to be that they kind of coincided in the aftermath of that period of life. I could be wrong, but I suppose my point of this entire video is to say, look, we as a true crime community, and, whether that be the creators or the people in the comments, I know that we crave information. We want information. And when we don't get it, or it comes in a way that isn't how we expect it, we can become frustrated. And we can get to the point where we then start questioning the authenticity of an individual. But it's like the NA situation, for instance. If Bryan and Will, or Chris, whatever his fucking name is, if they met in this scenario, then these work on an anonymity situation, don't they? Where you don't really know one another. Things are kind of kept away from the outside world. It's like a little unique club. You have your sponsors, you get chips, and and not like chips that you eat. I mean, to say, well done, you've been clean for 6 months or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? They go through all this together. So some of that would be kept quite secret and private, and it's not really for anyone else to kind of know about unless these individuals themselves want to discuss it. Also, we have to consider that Will has a military history. He says that he was in the Marines. He comes out of the Marines and seems that his life took a bit of a turn that could have led him into that collision with Bryan Kohberger, whether it was using or whether it was getting over that. You've got to respect the fact that this individual with military history, and if his life took a turn, then he could be suffering himself. He could have been going through an incredibly difficult time that perhaps it's hard for him to go back and dig into that part of his brain. We know that some people who serve in the military, some of the horrible, heinous stuff that they see and the huge effect that has on their lives. I live in it. I live amongst it. I live a stone's throw away from a base, and I interact with military people every single day. And I see the aftermath of the things that they see. And I'm all too familiar with it. So I think in terms of how we treat this situation, it is that, look, someone has come out in support of Bryan as something that we haven't really seen. We've heard some stuff on the peripheral. We've obviously heard the fucking students putting the boot in at every single chance that they get, or media seemingly utilizing specific stories of the more student world to crucify and burn Bryan Kohberger at the stake. But it's quite interesting that people from a more professional background, they have a completely different story to tell you about Bryan. Apart from stuff that's coming out now that I'm going to talk about later, that seems to be the state, their methodology of what they're looking to do in terms of Bryan Kohberger, their evilness is kind of starting to transpire. And it might make more sense as to what Ann Taylor was talking about with respect of needing more time and the rebuttal from the state saying, no, you've had enough time. I don't think she has. And I think I'm going to prove that later. But look, I will finally end on the elephant in the room. Fuck, that was, I didn't even do that. Some people are going to think I did that on purpose. I absolutely didn't. You'll learn the context of that was shite. But look, it is what it is in terms of this guy had apparently turned around. Well, I say apparently, pretty much flat out did. He called Jules fat or insinuated that Jules was fat. And look, what I would say, and I know Will watches these videos, all I would say, my friend, is apologise. Apologise for it. You know, Bryan Kohberger, ultimately, you've come out into this place, into this space, and said, look, I knew Bryan Kohberger, and I want to stand up for him. I've come out here to give him a voice when he doesn't have one. Because all you're seeing every day is people chipping away at him, and it gets to the point when you're fucking frustrated and pissed off. But what I will say is it doesn't do Bryan Kohberger any favours if he has people coming in to fight his corner that are pricks themselves. And that was a real prick thing to do. So maybe head over there or email and just fucking apologise. Because I think that was a little bit fucking uncalled for. In the grander scheme of things, I think that we're all here for the same reason. And I think Jules, of all people, has been someone who has been steadfast in saying, look, I'm not going to take everything at face value. I'm going to go by the court documentations and the things that said, very much like I do. She don't tend to go down some of the rabbit holes I do. She tends to stay on the peripheral of such. And me and Jules have fell out in the past. You know what I mean? We have fell out in the past. But with respect of her ex-partner reached out to me because he knew that me and Jules weren't on talking times, and he tried to get me to fuck Jules over. Unbeknownst to him, I into doing that and told Jules. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, prickish thing to do, fucking apologise. There was no fucking need for it. We're all here trying to stand in Bryan Kohberger's corner to the point where he either gets out of this and is free, or he has been proven to have been the person who did this, and then fuck him. Well, if he did it, he did it. And we'll walk away with our hands and heads held up high, saying that we did right by the guy. We gave him the benefit of the doubt. We stood on his corner when he was entitled to being given the opportunity to be considered potentially innocent and go through the right fucking process and be proven guilty. I won't feel fucking bad if he comes out the other side and it's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he did it. My absolute fear, and again, we'll talk about this in the next video, is that this isn't going to be about evidence. This isn't going to be about factual, tangible evidence that says, yes, Bryan Kohberger did it and has the factual, tangible evidence to show it. This is going to be a fucking mudslinging competition where they make someone look an asshole so a weak fucking shit piss case looks strong. And they'll execute him with it. That should fucking scare you. The best of you. Love you all. Mwah.